You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Who has been the defensive player of the year for Syracuse football through 6 games? In my opinion, it is Fadil Diggs. The 4-star Texas A&M transfer has been the best defender for Syracuse football through 6 games. And look, it's not all that surprising because when Syracuse football got him in the transfer portal, he was perceived to be Syracuse's best defensive lineman on the roster for 2024 and overall as one of their top defensive players and roster players, okay? In the preseason, I thought Fadil Diggs was the second best player on Syracuse football, even ahead of Kyle McCord. Now, Fadil Diggs is the defensive player of the year for Syracuse, but he's moving down the list solely because Kyle McCord has been incredible, okay? Kyle McCord 1, I would say that him and Ryan Nassib are 2, 3, and we'll see if Marlowe Wax when he gets healthy. But regardless, Fadil Diggs through 6 games has been terrific for Syracuse football. Everything that we could have hoped for when we got this guy in the transfer portal. So far, he's got 4 sacks, he's got 8 tackles for loss, and both of those lead Syracuse. Okay, he leads with 4 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. He has been very, very good for Syracuse football. It's not all that surprising. Once again, 4-star transfer from Texas A&M. I mean, this was a big-time get for Syracuse football. One of the biggest ones, one of the biggest fish that Fran Brown got in the transfer portal this offseason. But what I have been pleasantly surprised about has been Fadil Diggs' versatility that he has shown at the midway point of the season. Because look, Syracuse football was dealt a pretty brutal injury in the first game of the season to Marlowe Wax. Marlowe Wax, for those that may not know, don't follow the team too closely, he is an all-conference linebacker. This is arguably the best defender on Syracuse football, even with Fadil Diggs there. He is the one who has the headset in his helmet, so he's the one who's supposed to call the plays to the defense. Think of him as almost like the quarterback of the defense, okay? He goes down in week 1, and hopefully he comes back for the Pitt game on Thursday, but Syracuse hasn't seen him since the 3rd quarter against Ohio in the season opener. What has that led to? Well, Fadil Diggs has had to basically play 2 positions since the second half against Ohio. He's had to play a little bit of linebacker. He's had to play a little bit of defensive line. And it's really helped Syracuse not necessarily be an elite defense, okay? They're not an elite defense, but they have been able to survive the Marlowe Wax injury so far in large part because Fadil Diggs is playing both defensive line and he is playing linebacker. And in most years for Syracuse football, I cannot understate this enough. In most years, when a star player for the Orange goes down with an injury, very rarely have they really been able to replace him. Forget replacing him for a second. Oftentimes, they can't even really survive without him. I mean, let's shift to the offensive side of the ball real quick. We remember what happened with Ryan Nassib last year when he was out for the season after suffering an injury against Western Michigan in the second game of the year. Granted, Syracuse won the Western Michigan game, and then they won 2 straight games after that. But then they snowballed for the rest of the year. You think Ryan Nassib could have turned around 1 or 2 more of those games? I think so. Garrett Schrader goes down with an injury, had a little bit of a shoulder problem last year. Couldn't survive it. And I know that's quarterback, but you get the idea. In normal years for Syracuse football, when a star player goes down with an injury, and it happens to pretty much every team, someone's going to get hurt. It's football. They can't necessarily survive it, but Fadil Diggs has been one of the main reasons why they have been able to survive it with his play along the defensive line and as a linebacker with Marlowe Wax out. Now, that being said, if and when Marlowe Wax returns, and hopefully it is against Pitt on Thursday, I think you're going to see an even better Fadil Diggs in the second half of the year because he's not going to have to play a lot of linebacker. Fadil Diggs is going to be able to pin his ears back and go rush the passer. And he's got 4 sacks this season through 6 games. That's a pace for 8 sacks in the regular season. That would break his career high. His career high is only 4.5. But I wouldn't be surprised with Marla Wax hopefully returning from injury, Fadil Diggs maybe averages a sack a game in the second half of the year and finishes with 10 overall. I would not be surprised if he did that because, again, Marla Wax is going to return. He's going to be patrolling the middle of the field. He's going to be playing linebacker. Him, Derek McDonald, and Justin Barron. Fadil Diggs can rush the passer, play a little bit more freely. He's not going to be asked to do everything for Syracuse in their front seven anymore when Marla Wax returns. So, best defender through 6 games of this season has been Fadil Diggs, in my opinion. If you think it's someone else or you agree with me, leave a comment in the comment section below, your best defender for Syracuse football through 6 games of this season. So